Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh, and good morning everyone. So today we continue our lessons on chapter 2, which is cell structure and function. Basically today we are going to learn about the cells which are grouped into tissues. By the end of today's lesson, you should be able to describe animal tissues and plant tissues. Animal cells and tissues are divided into four types. We have the epithelial cells, which can be found lining the organs, and the function is to protect the surfaces. Nerve impulse or nerve cells for impulse conduction. The muscle cells that can contract either by its own or triggered by nerve impulses, as well as the connective tissue, which is mainly to bind and support other tissues. The first type of animal cells or tissues is the epithelial cells. Basically, the epithelial cells are divided into two main types, which are the simple epithelial cells and the stratified epithelial cells. The simple epithelial cells is divided into three, which are the simple squamous epithelial cell, the simple cuboidal epithelial cells, and the simple columnar epithelial cells. The simple epithelial cells is made of a single layer of cell, whereby the stratified squamous epithelial cell is made of several layers of cell. The single layer of plate-like cells that form a simple squamous epithelium functions in the exchange of material by diffusion. This type of epithelium, which is thin and leaky, lines blood vessels and the air sacs of the lungs, where diffusion of nutrients and gases is critical, whereby a cuboidal epithelium with a disc-shaped cell specialized for secretions make up the epithelium of kidney tubules and many glands, including the thyroid gland and salivary gland. The large brick-shaped cells of simple columnar epithelial are often found where secretions or active absorption is important. For example, a simple columnar epithelium lines the intestine, secreting digestive juices and absorbing nutrients, whereby a stratified squamous epithelium is a multi-layered and regenerates rapidly. New cells formed by division near the basal surface, you can see here, this basal surface, push upwards, replacing cells that are sloughed off. This epithelium is commonly found on surfaces subject to abrasion, such as the outer skin and the linings of the mouth, anus, and vagina. Nerve cells or neurons are the basic units of the nervous system. A neuron receives nerve impulses from other neurons via its cell body and multiple extensions called dendrites. The sensory neuron, in this case, will receive a stimuli and will transmit impulse towards the brain. The brain will produce an output and it will transmit impulse through the motor neuron towards the target organ or tissues. The muscle cells or tissues are divided into three, which are the skeletal muscle, the cardiac muscle, as well as the smooth muscle. The skeletal muscle consists of bundles of long cells called muscle fibers. During development, skeletal muscle fibers form by the fusions of many cells, resulting in multiple nuclei in each of the muscle fiber. The cardiac muscle forms the contractile wall of the heart. It is striated like skeletal muscle and has similar contractile properties, whereby the smooth muscle has no striations and can be found on the wall of digestive tract, urinary bladder, arteries, and other internal organs. The cells are mainly spindle-shaped. Class, let us proceed with plant cells and tissues. The plant tissue basically divided into two main tissues, which are the meristematic tissues and the permanent tissues. The meristematic tissues are referring to the cells which are able to undergo cell division, whereby the permanent tissue is referring to a mature cells which are not able to divide anymore. The permanent tissue can be divided into two types of tissues. We have ground tissues and vascular tissues. Both ground tissues and vascular tissues play a specific function, unlike the meristematic tissues. The ground tissues are divided into three types, which are the parenchyma tissues, collenchyma tissues, and sclerenchyma tissues, whereby the vascular tissues are divided into two, which are xylem and phloem. Meristematic cells are divided into three types, which are apical meristem, lateral meristem, and intercalary meristem. The apical meristem is located at the tips of roots and shoots, provide additional cells that enable growth in length, a process known as primary growth. Primary growth allows roots to extend throughout the soil and shoots to increase their exposure to lights. Woody plants, however, also grow in circumference in the parts of stems and roots that no longer grow in length. This growth in thickness, known as secondary growth, is caused by lateral meristem, called the vascular cambium and the cork cambium. These cylinders of dividing cell extend along the length of roots and stem. In some monocots, particularly grasses, meristematic activity occurs at the bases of stems and leaves. These areas, called intercalary meristem, allow damaged leaves to rapidly regrow, which accounts for the ability of lawns to grow following mowing. There are three types of ground tissues, which are the parenchyma cell, collenchyma cell, and sclerenchyma cell. Mature parenchyma cells have primary walls that are relatively thin and flexible, and most lack secondary wall. When mature, parenchyma cells generally have a large central vacuole. Most of the metabolic functions of the plant occur in parenchymal cell, including photosynthesis. The collenchymal cells are generally elongated cells, and the primary walls are thicker compared to the parenchymal cells. The functions of collenchymal cells as support without restraining growth. The sclerenchyma cells also function as supporting elements in the plants, but they are much more rigid than collenchyma cells. There are two types of sclerenchyma cells, which are sclerites and fibers, are specialized entirely for support and strengthening. The vascular tissue is divided into two, which are the xylem tissues and the phloem tissues. For the xylem tissues, there are two types of xylem tissues, or it also known as water-conducting cells, which are tracheids and vessel element. The tracheids are long, thin cells with tapered end. So this is the tapered end. Water moves from cell to cell, mainly through the pitted walls, where it does not have to cross the secondary wall. Unlike trachea, vessel elements are generally wider, shorter, inner wall, and less tapered than trachea. They are aligned end to end, forming long pipe known as a vessel that in some cases are visible with the naked eyes. Unlike the water-conducting cells of the xylem, the sugar-conducting cells of the phloem are alive at functional maturity. In the phloem of angiosperm or flowering plant, these nutrients are transported through sieve tubes. So this is the sieve tubes, which consist of chains of cells that are called sieve tube elements or sieve tube members. The end wall between sieve tube elements, it is known as a sieve plate. It is known as the sieve plates have pores that facilitate the flow of fluid from cell to cell along the sieve tube. And a companion cell is a living cell which is connected to the sieve tube element by numerous plasmodesmata. The presence of nucleus and ribosomes in the companion cells serve not only the cell itself but also the adjacent sieve tube elements. So that's all for today's lesson. But before that, can you differentiate between plant and animal tissues? I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.